Hey everyone, we are back. We've been out for a month. Not that I've been on vacation for a month. It's just a week, but it took me a month to recover, I guess. But we're back. Michael, you've been busy, so we're skipping. I think last time our call was check-in was week 7, and we're jumping to week something. I already put it in the system, but whatever week this is, week 13 maybe. Yeah, but you're done basically. Site's done.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So we've had, just for structure wise, so we've had essentially phase 1, which had kind of a set scope and stuff. And then as expected and as normal, there are client change requests as they get in with real data. They get in to see the designs for real and HTML versus a Figma file. And they want to start making some changes here and there. So those become like additional scope. We've already done some of those as well. And there's a little bit left, but we're now at this point where we're just fully in the hands of the client for them to enter content. And so they're going to do that over the next month or so. And then the idea is to go live early September, maybe even late August if they're faster with their content. But it's kind of in their hands, and we're just holding steady until we get a little bit more information word from them. So first of all, congrats, Michael. Good job.
Thank you.
Just in time for your vacation.
Yes.
So why don't we use this as a kind of a wrap-up session then, and we can talk about how things ended, what are some final decisions. So the screen that I want to share, the one that makes me happy, I'm not I'm managing this account and project managing it, Matt is, but let me share my screen. And this is a screen that we all like to see. I've been so long I forget even how to share my screen in this thing. So what am I doing? Here we go. Share screen. That's cool. Are you seeing my screen? I guess I'm sharing my screen as opposed to a separate. I think this is. I think I did it wrong. It's fine. Here we are. So this is our where we kept track of things. We've organized all of the work, if you've seen before, into kind of what we call feature cards. It's just unique task lists per kind of grouped work. And so the ongoing build of things, it's here. So obviously we still have to go to production. There's some infrastructure stuff. I think it's actually really minor that's in here. Looks like there's 2 tasks that are, one task really, one's always open. But anyways, we've knocked it all out. These are all done. I get the stamps. So it's excellent. Now we're just down to the last bits. These are kind of this additional change requests that came in kind of after the fact, which we keep separate as well. And then we've also just got some minor pre-launch things that we'll be looking at as well, making sure it's all there. So it's all done, and that feels good. I am happy that we're at this phase. So that's how it looks to us inside. Michael, do you want to share what the current stage? I know with their content's changing, but like where we ended up with certain things, because just give us a little view of things with a focus even on the craft side of it, since we're looking at craft 5 set up for this.
Some of the as you said, once you get out of a Figma file and into the real world of the web, some things tend to change and stuff like that. So there were some minor changes to the UI and itself. That we originally had a different sort of UI setup that was more integrated into the headers. They decided to go with something that just mimics more the mobile end of things, where we have slide out menus come out on the sides, stuff like that, and retain that area. The other big changes that we had to do were regarding the projects. This is like the meat and potatoes of the site, and they want to make this more show more volume of work. They have a lot of volume of work, and they want to show that volume to client, rather than what we had before was just a little bit more specific. So we changed this view. Initially, we had an area where we had a map, and the map would update according to the filtering that was done on the results, and vice versa, sort of like an Airbnb thing. They decided they want to show more of their projects. So we went in and made this map view an entire separate view that comes in, that they can go in and click through and pull in different projects this way. So this was a change from what the original design had, but they preferred it as it shows more of the volume of work they're doing. Now, keep in mind, this is a small amount here. We're showing only like 30, because the other thing that we did from we discussed in previous episodes, we imported a lot of their projects from a third-party service called Open Asset, and because that's where they're primarily working when they're doing proposals and that sort of thing. and we pull in the projects from there. However, we set it up so that they get pulled in and they are disabled. Of course, if they want to add stuff in with Craft, which is what Craft is good for, to go in and add content to it. So right now we're only showing like maybe 30 or so, but there's a total of like 340 some odd projects that are going to be showing up on this map. So that's why they wanted to show the whole spectrum or the area that they're working with. We also went up from a 4, 5 upgrade, depending on the screen size, to a 3 upgrade. They wanted the images to be larger. So of course, that's not just making the images larger. That's also in the browser. That's also going in and changing the values when we're creating the images themselves, the transforms for the images. So we had to make those larger so they're more crisp at the larger sizes, and hook those up to media queries or with picture elements, stuff like that. So yeah, this is kind of the changes that were done there. And let's see. The other thing, which would be interesting to kind of discuss, is the client also wanted to change the layout of the navigation, the primary navigation, which we did and we showed. However, the other thing that they were looking at removing this sort of the white lines that we had in here, and we kind of pushed back against that because we came up with a couple problems in here, namely the search option, which was coming out here. So this was, if we removed all of these white lines, everything's kind of floating in space and you don't know where your cursor is whenever you're doing the search. So from a usability standpoint, removing those wouldn't have been such a good idea to do. So yeah, they agreed with us on that, and it's great. And so if later on in the future they want to come up with another change where we do something where clicking the UI for search opens up a full search box or something like that, we can do that there. But they're fine and happy with this, as was kind of per a mixed mash of the original design work and some changes that we had that they wanted to do.
Yeah. What was the interesting things that I when I stepped into this meeting yesterday, kind of wrapping things up, that apparently they had 2 versions of their homepage too, right? So what happens in design, what I see too, is like a lot of times homepages they're almost somewhat statically built kind of layouts where you have to kind of figure out your marketing story top to bottom, and if you make any changes, you need a developer come in to change your homepage, because that homepage is the one thing that's like clearly, even if you make everything dynamic, that homepage is not, type of it's the last holdout on keeping things templated. And we've done that. We have some sites where it's a little bit more templated, but we went a different route. You went a different route really in this one, and you gave them a very flexible homepage structure. So, and then when they had their debates internally, like I think they were debating internally about whether they were going to promote, their messaging was going to be about them and their history, and that they've been around for a long time, and like kind of why select SFS, the client. And then they switched, and they're like, well, no, let's compare that to a version of the homepage where it's project centric. And so in the way that we structured this, kind of our approach of just let's allow content teams to do what they need to do, they were able to do that, and they had kind of given us a task to say, hey, can you make that other homepage live? And we're like, oh, that's a content thing, you can do that. That's a change you can make. You want to walk through like how that was possible, like how we set it up, and how we think about it?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, for the initial designs had a kind of a set, okay, this is the sort of the homepage thing, but we kind of immediately went through and said, okay, how much of this is really set? Is this a component or a piece of content or a block going to be useful on other pages as well? So we kind of immediately broke those out and said, no, this doesn't need to be tied strictly to the homepage. They could be using it someplace else. And as you said, the good side of that as well is they were able to kind of sketch out their own sort of change of the homepage in like a separate entry to see how it would look. But one of the things that we did is we gave them different options, the same options that they would have like on a normal page. We gave them different options of having different header types. So in this case, for the homepage, they have the option to do this sort of intro where we have the intro comes in, which was showing on previously. But they can also do carousel because they wanted that option to have carousel images and be able to change that. And so this is kind of like the header area. And what we did is for the page content, we're using the same rows, columns, content blocks that we are on pages. So they're building out their homepage basically using the same blocks that they can build out on another page. So this would be an example of them substituting out the sort of intro header that they had in there, and then
Yeah.
setting all the content blocks that they want, so that's the way they can do that. It just seemed a lot of times that's what happens. You kind of you have to go through a design and look through it and say, well, yeah, I see the original intent of a component there, and it might be, conveying a visual message that is great for the homepage. But countless times we've been asked, for other builds that we've taken on, stuff like it's like, oh, I want to be able to use this on this page, So
Yeah.
that's why our approach is always kind of taking the homepage, breaking it down, and say, okay, this is going to be useful on another page if necessary. So let's keep it as flexible as possible for the client.
Yep. Absolutely. Well, stellar job. Can you just, for then our purposes here, like show us the entry section,
Sure.
like how this ended up, of how many sections are there in the entries grouping, and how we organize kind of this stuff.
Sure. So we have, for singles, we have the homepage, of course, the one that we were just looking at. We also set up a single for settings instead of using globals, because globals are going to be going probably in graph 6 or 7. They're still there, but they're going to be leaving very soon. And a single basically serves the same purpose. Basically, it's going in there. And there's also some caching implications as well, if I remember correctly. If updated global data, it's going to go through and refresh the cache for everything, basically, because its intent was like for the homepage, for caching stuff. So, but we used a single setup for settings. In this case, we're using some fields, the map field for the location, things like, contact data, social media accounts, footer. The navigation we set up here, because we like to decouple the navigation from any page's structure, so they have that flexibility as well to make the navigation however they want. And this is just, since we're doing with Graph 5 and we can now nest matrix within matrix, it's not using any plugins. So, no super table, no Neo or anything like that. We just went in and figured out how to do the nesting that way.
No navigation plugin, sorry, Verb.
Yeah, sorry. And we also set some basic stuff here for like some of the major sections, the projects and the news section. So projects, this is like a default project collection page. We, as we might have discussed in early episodes, we tend to like to stick to using a pages section and using different entry types for things like a news listing page or a project listing page. That way they can be nested however the client wants it to be. They can do that themselves within the content management system and not have to call in a developer, say if it was a single or something like that. Hey, I want to put this at this URL structure, this and that. They can do that themselves. And this is just a way of them setting, if they have multiple, in this case, project listing pages, we can give them that option when we use them as entry types. Here they can select one that is like the primary one. If we need to use that stuff, like go back to the main pages or something, like they can set that here. We also have additional content rows, because one of the things we did, which is pretty cool with Commerce, Craft 5, is entry types are everywhere, so they can be reused not only on sections, they can be used on blocks, matrix blocks. And we go back here to some of the settings, you'll see we have a reusable content channel. So these are blocks basically, but they're set up now, these entry types in the channel. So they can create a reusable row or something, and say they want to put this row on all the pages of the news section to be, below the results, like that. They can set all that stuff here once, and they're not having to repeat it on all the pages. They just have to go in, select it, and that's the one that's going in there. That's the reusable content section. And yeah, the way we have set it up, we have pages set up with the different entry types. They have the general page entry type, which is they can go in and make any, organize the page however they want with the page content fields. They can set up all the different, they can do custom rows with a number of columns in between, and within those columns, you have basic content blocks. So we have, like headings, rich text, quote block, image, these sort of things. They can drop into form. And yeah, that's the sort of general thing. Whereas on pages that are something a little bit more offer collections, which in this case would be a project collection page, which was the project listing page I showed you earlier. They have different options. They can select a featured project that will show up in there, but they can also select, since we're talking about entry types, they can have multiple project listing pages. You don't know if in the future they want to be able to break that down via URL structure.
Yeah.
So here they can select the taxonomy for that, and they can like pre-select or pre-filter the results that are going to show up on this page. And again, they also have the additional content blocks in there as well.
And so I want to pause on that because I think this is a big deal. And I think in a lot of the ways, or at least how we approach craft builds and how I've seen other people approach craft builds, like there's sometimes a difference here where like any of these default kind of landing pages, sometimes developers will see them in their mind, they're kind of these fixed things. It's a fixed template that's just a landing page, like doesn't belong in the sitemap, or it belongs in the sitemap, but not like in a pages structure. It's the client shouldn't move these, and it becomes this fixed thing because if you, the fear I've heard at least is, well, if you move it, then what happens to access all those listings? Like, how do you get it? And for us, well, it's like the same thing. Well, if you delete a block of content from your homepage, like it's content. Like you just got to trust your client, like they're going to know their site, and so you don't have to lock them out. But all I have to say is, we don't put these landing pages for news, events, or blog landing, right? Kind of these the main index kind of page for those in singles section, because as you were noting, that then they might want a different version of it. They might want, and this actually has happened on another project yesterday and today, where we had a gallery page. So it's like it's a gallery page, and forever they've just had one gallery page that shows artwork, right? And now they wanted to show off artwork for a particular product that was used. And so we built that in 4 years ago, or whatever it was. The gallery page, you can have more than one gallery page, and you, as you've shown here, you can have fields that are kind of filter, so they can then, and we already had it set up. Well, you want to show gallery artwork related to this one product, you can do that. So I mean, that's something we knew 4 years ago that they were going to do one day, and they did it. They finally did it, and stuff. So that's that idea, is then their marketing team was just able to move on it, and because they're pushing out this product and they move fast. And so like we would have been a bottleneck in development to then make that, unique. It would have given more cost that they didn't need to spend. So if you do it right the first time, or at least you do it flexibly in the first time. And so I think it's a real advantage to kind of how we approach this, and allow them to have, because I even know for them, for SFS, I think one of their possible things they might use for this is they will want to send a potential lead, somebody who's researching them and talking to them. They can send them a direct URL that shows like, well, here are all the projects that are like yours. This is a firehouse, so here's all the firehouse, projects. And so you don't have to go in and like, go to that page and filter firehouse. They can just send them a link that has it pre-filtered, and it's easy for them. And that also is good for SEO for them. If they ever pursue that, they can have more specific, keyword terms according to certain results.
Yeah, definitely. As you said, this was one of the requirements of basically is they want to be able to use the website not just as like a brochure site. They want to also want to be able to use it as a tool for, just as you said, targeting a specific market or something like that. So different types of projects that they can be involved in. They can create customized results of projects that they can then share the link, and it's more than just a brochure site for them.
Yeah. Well, cool. Why don't we leave it there? So as we wrap it up, Michael, phenomenal work, and we're going to look forward to seeing the site live. So check in. I think I can tell everyone it's going to be at SFSArch, ARCH.com, SFSArch.com in September. That's probably when it will launch, once their content is all added and put it in there, so you can kind of see it for yourself. But yeah, if you have any questions, hit us up. I know, Michael, I'm realizing only now we're saying goodbye, so we're not answering this, but I thought I'd leave us hanging with one thing that maybe we got to solve in another video. We can share another video. Is one of the things, there was a craft developer, who was asking us like how we handle image transforms so that we don't have overly, that's one of the penalties you get in page speed, right? So is a lot of times sites can be slower, pages can be slower to load if your images aren't optimized for the final view in which that they're displayed. So if you're showing it in a 200 by 200 kind of pixel element, but your images are 800 by 800, you're going to get penalized, not only because then the image is just too large for the space. It doesn't necessarily need to be that large. So it's too much bandwidth and it slows down. So you get penalized. So anyways, one of the questions was, how do we handle, since we have such a responsive dynamic column system on those pieces, like how do we go about to make sure that then we're not delivering images that are penalizing performance scores in a way, and then how much we care about it. So why don't we just, unless you really want to answer it, I don't think you don't have to. Why don't we just leave it there and know that we'll come back to that in a future time, as we can talk about that, of like how detailed do we get on any of those things, because I know you've run into that where we've had to fix a couple moments where when we've gone through and look at it. Sound good?
Yeah, it'll be the cliffhanger.
Yeah. Stay tuned. Next season, we will talk about responsive images. Well, I'm glad we wrapped this up. Sorry to leave us hanging for a month, but it is all done. And enjoy your vacation again, Michael, and everyone else who's watching. Stick around, I guess, on this YouTube channel. We're going to keep trying to make stuff. So we'll see you around.